This was a barren land, and what you see now on the road around, there was nothing, fields across also. So it was quite a surprising site visit, because one never realizes that the site gradually rises where we go to the main campus. And there were hardly any trees. So today we can't recognize, where we are. And I think this journey of 40 years was actually 20 years of on-site work has been a remarkable experience of discovering. And that discovery is something which I think we would go and talk about. So this walk is going to be a part of that journey. A journey of discovery, journey of where we go, how we go, what we see. And as one notices today, it has become like a part of the garden city. So my first visit was to Lal Bagh. And of course, one crossed through Cubbon Park. So now I am reminded of those journeys that we are going to walk through the park. And in between you will see the classrooms and other places where you learn and walk and through. So I think let's begin our journey. I was remembering Professor N.S. Ramaswamy, because he is the one who inspired me and my colleagues and my partners that time, Karmind and Rai and my partners from Delhi. It was a dream of creating a new campus after the IIM Ahmedabad campus. So the whole question was, if IIM campus is very good, which was designed by Louis Kahn, and I was the one who initiated that campus, and I worked with him, with Louis Kahn. So what is it that we can do in Bangalore? So the first lesson is that this is a garden city. So the garden city must have a garden campus, green campus. But will it be a campus or will it be an ashram or a gurukul? So that there are no pressures. And I think this is how we thought of the journey. So we were thinking about the temples. I had also visited the Madurai temple, and I was wondering about those corridors and the courtyards. And I witnessed that time, how people rolled, how people came, anxious people came, and some of them I walked with. And I found out that those with whom I walked, there was agony on their face and whatnot, but once they went and went near the deity and came back, they were transformed. So this idea that is it possible that the journey would always make you what you are supposed to be? And that thought lingered. So I think this building is made around corridors, around not closed corridors, not only the roof and columns, but a corridor with green parks, so that you are partly inside and outside. You are constantly in this campus, outside and inside. Wherever you cast your eyes, you will see the gardens. The administration building was built first, and that was how we began in phases. It was built over 20 years in many phases. So the first phase was this block and then this block.
Yes.
The other thing was that we had 3 contractors, and no contractor had done work of this kind of. They were doing good stone work, but we wanted to have stone work something else, and we had one supervisor called Radhakrishnan. And if you see the work he did, if you go to one end of the corridor or a wall, go up to the other end, and you put a string, it will be in one line. A remarkable engineer, he just passed away 2 years ago. But this is the time to remember him, and then along with him, Shivram was there. So there was a teamwork. There were people who were good, the Balaji construction, the contractors were, for everybody it was an experiment. And the experiment was like this. For example, when you cast the staircase, how do you cast concrete? How do you really cast these mullions? You know, concrete in Bangalore that time was not that much. It was being done, but not so much. So all these things were experimental. They tried, they initially even lost money, but they thought this is a prestigious place. So if you look at the concrete work, it is not touched. It was built like this. So 30 years, it has stood the test of time. So as you you walk, I think even the scale of the place is like a big journey, you know. And then in between you would see glimpses of these gardens. The first phase continued up to there, and this is where the director's office is. And again he has a courtyard, so we will go there and come back. Director and his conference room and everything around here. So every place you will notice that what you see out of the window is garden. And you would see either a reflected stone wall. So when the sun goes down, you get reflected light. So this is a private court for the director and if he has to meet. And one could see from here the pergola, where we are going to go from there at distance. That's the library connection, and then there is the open large ground. Look at the windows. To protect from the sun, the top window comes out, the other window goes slightly in, and the lower window goes still inside. So the protection is also made. All these windows were made again, and this window jambs were cast in concrete with a little wooden bead so that everything can be fitted. So all the new details were new because I had never worked before in stone. So stone joinery and the window which is steel, how do you get it together, and it has to be waterproof. There are basically three materials: concrete, stone and grey stone. Everything is grey. Throughout this campus, there are a couple of elements architecturally. Openings on the sides and change of volume. Single volume, double volume, triple volume. So if you remember that you want to create vertically like this, or you make floors and you remove some of the floors, suddenly buildings change. So one doesn't need different materials. One doesn't need too much to work with. There are no curved walls here. It's a very simple building, very easy to build. But the changes, it also gives natural light every place. Imagine this with sunlight. These ribs would cast shadows here, and so the space would change. This is the pergola. Actually, the whole issue is this is a building and this is a building. So that is how I convinced the clients. So I am spending money on this. I have only added this. So I said, if I add this, would you give me the money? So the cost was very little compared to the building, so they agreed. But there was still a problem. So I said, I'll make only 1/3 cover, rest I will not cover. So this way the calculations were made, and that is how I got the government of India to sanction. But then the advantages which are to me a surprise is like these creepers, the shadows, and these in between connections. So actually all the connections are porous. You can see the classroom of the other end. Shadows. So this is the administrative block. This is the structure of the pergola here, and a service area, staircases and toilets. And if you see, all the classrooms get courtyards. If you walk here, and if you walk tomorrow and the next day, you will not see the same experience because the sun will be changing its direction. So the sun becomes part of architecture here. So also the breeze. And now you come to again the same pergola with columns, walls, and the open and close. So rain-wise, because Bangalore has infrequent rains, unexpected rains. So you still walk under the shade and you are still in the open. So this is an advantage of this. So if this opens up, and they are connectors. So your buildings can be built within, so that those buildings are independent, so the growth can be any time. So I had given the references in my drawings earlier about the temple complex and Fatehpur Sikri in terms of growth. So if you make a grid, the grid is loose, additions are loose, spaces are also loose. So you can create this variety and then you can meander in between. This is the library which connects to the dormitories there. So you can come like this, go across. That time the chairman was saying that I must know how do you make library as a temple. So I didn't know what to do. So I added a little entrance to make it look, and he got Saraswati. So this was the landing, that landing goes there. This was extended originally. So I found a place there for his statue, idol that he got. But this one has an axis like this. So this projection is seen all the time. So the library's presence is witnessed. Those engineers who work with me left the job because I was changing all the time. But this time, when I was doing this, when I designed these columns, I did not put the walls in front of the columns. So they asked question, why the wall and the column is not there? I said there are jugalbandi between them. So one moves and the other one moves like this. And then only they were not convinced. His boss is that time his boss, is my close friend. Very, very close friend. So he says, well, okay, you want to do this. You will see in the dormitory, there are two walls and there is one column in the middle, but there is also a lintel-like thing. In concrete, you don't need to do that. But I did because I had seen this in wooden construction. So after it was finished, Raj told me, ye acha lagta hai. So sometimes it is necessary to know how things look. So you must make a lot of models, you must look at old buildings, you must look at other buildings and then check what is right, You must make your own judgment about it. Each classroom has an outdoor classroom space. And again you will see the principle of projections for climate. And then the expression of the slabs, there by these little projections. Shadow is very important. Sun is very important, light is very important. So one has to know how to play that game. Then we added this extension. So you can see, this is also the other entry to come like this from a court. So this is like an apron to this corridor. And then we added an auditorium. So all the time the buildings were added while construction is going on. So one has to find many things to do. So there is a little auditorium there. And then these steps, yeah. And incidentally, these classrooms are only those windows, that building. This is added outside to stretch your hands. Building is very small. Like we have these, if you remove the ears, what would happen? So you have to think about how do you end the building? How do you stretch a building? How do you readjust proportions to make them look proper? So those are other exercises of architecture. You will see glimpses like this. So the vistas become very long, and if you look back here, and then you look back here, you come out here, and you see this pergola, very different. That pergola goes to MDC. So it's a long corridor, but it doesn't look long because you have gardens in between, open spaces in between. And the quality of light is consistent. There is a canteen there, and this is how it was, and there were some openings here and boundaries. So now we'll go to the other classroom there. So the three classrooms make a cluster, and the middle portion gets a staircase and a court. So this one is that corridor. I think the buildings change over time. They must also become like us. They must become part and parcel of nature. They must change their character, they must cool down, and they must give you some kind of other messages. So when we talk about sustainability, these buildings are sustainable because it's a stone, easy to build, easy to maintain, locally available, and it insulates. So now you come to these classrooms and a corridor here with an opening which connects there. And then these little spaces which are made in the corner, they are meant for small seminars, gatherings, etc. The purpose is that one must have enough spaces to accidentally meet. Always in the educational system, whatever is heard, one wants to reflect. Then there is a reaction, then there is a dialogue. Either individual dialogue, personal dialogue with somebody, and then finally it gets resolved. And therefore you must have pauses. So there are many spaces of pauses, diagonally or otherwise, and one can always move diagonally. So that's the shortcut. So there are long routes, short routes, but they're all different routes. So this was, every time the new director, there were about 4 or 5 directors changed during my time. And also the engineer changed, program also changed. So I had to shift buildings from there to there to there, like a puzzle. So one classroom was 60, which became 120, then became 180, then became 200, then became 250. So there were no clear-cut ideas about this. As the needs happened, as the money came, it was built. So then one classroom which we are going to go was built, one of the last ones. And now the land had its own contours. That's why you see steps, platforms, and that is why you see the building. And now we are going to go to a place which is the auditorium. So I thought it should be different from that corridor, different from the other corridors, but it should be another one. So in each corridor the light changes, openings change, the skylight changes. So here you will see the light is different from the other one. There are seminar rooms here, then there are these classrooms above also. So you see partly shaded, then it becomes this, and then the roof goes on top. So if you go on top, you will see very different space than here, and you see the negative of that below. Extra rooms added to change the whole character of this double space. And in order to mark the entry, I added these little symbolic columns. So they look very different in different light, and they also tell you that something special must be happening there.
When you are moving through parallel corridors, like even while going to auditorium, there can be 2 or 3 parallel routes from the hostels. All of the corridors are almost similar.
I don't think they are similar. No, they are the same material, but they are not similar.
So did you like consider the possibility of color coding?
Tell me, how many people's faces are different here? Are the same color? We are not the same color, more or less. But yet we can distinguish, no?
Yeah.
So what is the distinction? How do we distinguish that? Your height is different, features are different, eyes, everything is different. Color is not necessarily to be done as purposefully. You can add a little bit color, no, like they have.
In the sense of colors, like did you think of leaving some sort of markers which students can easily identify? Like I sometimes tend to get lost, especially because of the sometimes like stairs go around, like there's a maze kind of structure. So I wanted to understand if you considered it, and if you didn't.
No, I considered that losing one's life sense is a good way to learn. You can't learn only by a straight line, no. Sometimes you fall, sometimes you slip, sometimes you lie horizontally and look something and ideas come. And you are the same color, same person, same position, only you are changing your modes. There is an invisible way of understanding things. So I don't think you would lose supposing you lost the way, you would have found something else. No, but you would have found something else. Or no? Is it better to find something new or find the same thing again? No, I am saying because that is the way I work. I found out myself. That's how I have grown. I think what I have done is, I want to be a child. So that you will fall, things will happen, but you will absorb and something else will come. So a campus must be a place of discovery. A place of not knowing and then knowing. You can't know, but when you don't know and then you know something more than what other people think they know. And not one corridor, because we had to make drawings of every corridor. There are thousands of drawings. It's not the same. Sometimes there are changes in the window levels. Some places the windows are above, some places windows are below. They are all getting a dialogue of their own in silence. So if you sit in one place for long and observe everything, you will see the difference. And the idea is that, that you must be, don't run.
Doing this, I mean, right now when we see it, we feel so wonderful about it. So how you must be feeling right now or after it was completed? So what did this campus do to you personally?
It makes me wonder. No, really, I was telling Rajiv, I was telling my colleagues when I met them that I have come here after 3 years. And I look back and it has been slow because I worked almost 20 years on the job. And once in 2 months I was here for 3-4 days. I used to meet local architects, would have parties and whatnot. But here was a place which for me was always a surprise. Because there is a challenge, like these 2 columns, when the hall came here, I did not know what to do. How do you recognize there is an important place? So suddenly I remembered these old temples, obelisks and whatnot. Then I went home office and I made a wooden model, like this. And then I made, you can see, there is a square, then the square becomes octagon, then becomes 16. So I began to study this. So if you go up there, you will see this differently. If you are here, you will see it differently. So this is the kind of thing, that these steps are not the same as other steps. Other steps are regular, these steps are very low steps. So it is like stretching. This is actually encircling the auditorium. And then you go outside on the platform, and then you are in the garden. Now one would never expect that to happen. Not many people even go from here. But otherwise the idea is you go from there and again back. You are in the same auditorium, but it is like a waistband. So I try to do this, I want to eat like this.
So which is your favorite passage or the part, if there is any?
No, first when I did initially, I liked that pergola. I made a lot of photographs. Then I came, and when the library came, then I found that pergola better. Then when I did this became very important. Every time, because each one is different.
We were just saying, we are actually discovering this today. We came to auditorium all the time. This thing that it goes around. We only saw this as a stair, it was still here.
But also the staircase is not the same risers. So it's a question of why not. But it is also, the question is, does it make some sense? And different sense. No, they are structural. These walls are deep walls, then this wall is inside, so there is an offset there. Inside maybe there is an offset, maybe not. So this is like a connecting wall to strengthen them. Also I have to have the end wall. No? So where do I put the end wall? I could have put it straight. It would have looked like that. But then this would not have looked that this is different. It's like my bones, no? Everybody doesn't have like this, some are flabby, some are this. So I look at all this. So then that makes you feel that maybe, oh, this is the bone structure.
Did the government give you enough freedom, or was it like a torture to balance it all?
In this case, it was more freedom that time. Now the conditions are very different. Yeah, there was a freedom because the director was the one who could decide. And director had the faith of the board. And the board had the faith of the government. Only thing was finance restriction. But otherwise they never bothered. There were not too many committees. And then as I told you, the director would change, so he would change the program. So I had to readjust. But because I was able to readjust, he had faith in me. Once a director telephoned me in monsoon at the office and says, I knew him before, I had met him briefly. He says, Doshi, you know the water is coming in the verandas and this and that. So I said, sure. I said, they were coming in the verandas before, so what's the problem? He said, no, you come. So I came after 3 days studying how the water can be stopped with putting horizontal concrete bands. And I came and met him and I said, Mr. So-and-so, I have a solution. He says, what is it? I showed him like this. And I said, let's go out and see whether what it is. Because I said, ventilation is different. He saw, he says, please don't do, I am all right. So it takes a lot of effort. You have to be sure of what you can do, and you must also recognize somebody else's issues. It's a very important thing. And then you find an alternative which is suitable to both.
So, was there any part which was very difficult to do, like which you had to redo in terms of...
Most of them. I told you, no, that this part was very difficult to put this building here. No, dimensioning is very difficult. Sections are very difficult to do. Like all staircases have some variation. Some go right, some go there, you know. Because I like the staircase, you know, people sit there, they chat, they play the game, and I want them to do it. And I think that's the purpose of any school or a college. Everybody must feel that they have memories of those places. Actually, all spaces have their own memories and each one carries that memory. A little discussion, something happened, or sudden kind of thing they had seen, not noticed. And those are the things, you know, if you do, then at least you have done the job, like storytelling, courtyards and corridors. Connecting corridors and courtyards, but then the whole question, I could have drawn a grid. And the grid could be the same. So then you shift a little bit here, there, you turn around, you have a piece of paper, you make a collage, you look at it, then you add on. Then locating classrooms, you push one here, one there, look at the corner, look at the junctions, imagine the view. It's a game. Whole profession is a game.